Okay, class. So we're on page 608 and we're doing questions 32 through 38. I know that the instructions say find the measure of the red arc. You can see here that I highlighted them all in pink. So when you look at your paper, you can see the highlighted part is the part that's shaded in is the part you're looking for, since your copies aren't made in color. And I also know that questions 39 through 46 need to be answered in a full sentence. So I'll be looking at your papers and giving you back feedback on that during this video. I'm just going to just explain the rule briefly, but I'll give you back some feedback on your papers, and I hope to see complete sentences in your answers. So let's start with question number 32. Okay. It says, find the measure of the red arc. Well, I know here in question 32 that arc AE is 70 degrees, and I know that arc EC is 75 degrees. So if I wanted to find the measure of this complete arc here, all I would have to do would be to add those two together. 70 plus 75 is going to give me 145 degrees. Looking at question number 33, I can see here that the central angle FJG is 45 degrees. So then that means that the arc that it creates is also 145 degrees. Remember, guys, that central angles that have the vertex, the center of the circle is its vertex, the angles they create is the same as the arc that it creates. Number 34. Well, I know that this is 130, and I know that this is 85. I have this missing part right here. I know that a circle has 360 degrees, so if I add these two together and subtract it from 360, I'll know what the missing part is. So let me add 30 and 85. 130 and 85. So 130 plus 85 is 215, minus 360 is 145 degrees, which means that this arc up here, arc KL, is going to be 145 degrees. Together, they all equal 360. Let's take a look at question number 36. Question number 36, they're asking us to find the value of x. Well, I want you to notice something here. Notice how this is a diameter right here. Notice how this is a diameter. They want us just to find the shaded portion here. But if I all of this together here, how much is all of this? Isn't this a semicircle? Which means that all of this together is equal to 180 degrees. So if I add all of these together and set it equal to 180, I can find the value of x. So let's do that. So 2x minus 3 plus x is equal to 180 degrees. Well, 2x and 1x is going to give me 3x minus 30 is equal to 180. I'm going to add 30 to both sides. I'm going to get 3x is equal to 180 plus 30 is 210. So 3x is equal to 210. I'm going to divide both sides by 3. And x is equal to 70. 210 divided by 3 is 70. But we haven't answered the question yet. They wanted to know how big this angle is here. So remember, x is 70. So it's going to be 2 times 70 minus 30. So let's do that. 2 times 70 is 140 degrees minus 30 gives us 110. So I know this is going to be 110 degrees. And when you think about it, if this is 110 and x is 70, well, isn't this a diameter? Isn't this a semicircle? Together, they should equal how much? 180. Well, look at that. My answer checks out. 110 plus 70 is a semicircle, 180. Let's take a look at question number 37. Again, they just want this part here. But wait a minute. Isn't this right here, isn't MN a diameter? Which means that if I add this whole semicircle here should be how much? Should be 180 degrees. So if I add 4x plus x, shouldn't it be equal to 180 degrees? Well, let's do that. 4x plus x is equal to 180 degrees. Because right here this is a diameter, and this arc plus this arc is a semicircle. Well, that's going to give me 5x is equal to 180. Divide both sides by 5, and x is equal to, well, 180 divided by 5 is 36. So x is equal to 36. But remember, they want this part of the arc right here, which is what? Which is 4x. X is 36, so it's 4 times 36. So 36 times 4 gives me 144. So I know that this is 144 degrees. By the way, I'm sure that if you put 36 here and 36 there and 144, and then you find out what was missing here, you add them all up, you get 360 degrees. Let's take a look here. They want to know what is the measure, what is the measure of this red arc here. Well, notice in this question, I don't have any diameters. There are no diameters, so I don't have any semicircles on the outside. What am I going to do? How am I going to solve this problem? Well, wait a minute. If I add up all of these together, if I add up 6x plus 7x plus another 7x plus 4x, if I add those together, shouldn't they all equal to 360 degrees? Well, let's do that then. Let's add them all together. So I'm going to add 4x plus 6x plus 7x plus another 7x that I saw there. Those are the 4 arcs, 1, 2, yeah. And they're all should be equal to 360 degrees when I add them all together. Well, 4x plus 6x is 10x, and 7x and 7x is 14. So I know that 10 and 14 is going to give me 24x, which should be equal to 360. Divide both sides by 24, and x is equal to 360 divided by 24 gives me 15. So the value of x is 15. Now, let's take a look here. That's not what the question is asking me for. The question is asking for the measure of this shaded region here. Well, remember that x is how much? X is 15. So this is going to be 6 times 15, and this is going to be 7 times 15, and whatever we get, we're going to add them together. So let's do that. 6 times 15 is 90. So this is actually 90 degrees here. And 7 times 15 is 105. 105. So if I add 90 plus 105, I'm going to get the answer, which is 195. 195. So so arc RST or arc TSR is 195 degrees. Now, question 30, let's take a look at question 39. For question 39 through 46, you should be answering your answers in complete sentences. I am going to just give a brief explanation here of what the answer should be. Okay? Let's take a look here. It says, what can you conclude about the diagram? State a rule, a postulate, or a theorem that justifies your answer. Meaning, explain which rule justifies your answer. Well, I can see here that arc AB is congruent to arc BC. If arc AB is congruent to arc BC, well then I know that, if chord, I misspoke there, I'm sorry, let me clear that up. If chord AB, here I can see chord AB, is congruent to chord BC. Well, chord AB makes arc AB, and chord BC makes arc BC. And if chord AB is congruent to chord BC, then arc AB, let me write that here, well then arc AB is going to be congruent to arc BC as long as they are minor arcs. Because the rule says that if one chord is congruent to another chord, then the minor arcs that they create are congruent. take a look at number 40. It says, what can you conclude about the diagram? Well, here they tell us that, let me take a look here. They tell us that arc BA is 90 and arc CD is 90. I misshaded it. That was the problem. Let me reshade it again. I'm sorry, guys. So really, this should be shaded in. This part should be shaded in. And this part in the middle here shouldn't be shaded in. So I know that arc BA is 90 degrees, and I know that arc CD is also 90 degrees. And they're asking me, what can I conclude about the picture? Well, first I know that arc BA and arc CD are congruent minor arcs. And since they are congruent minor arcs, well then I know that chord BA is congruent to chord CD. Because if this arc is 90 degrees and this arc is 90 degrees, well then the chords that they create are also going to be congruent. Let's take a look at number 41. Number 41, they have a chord CA here, and they have a chord AB here. They tell me that they're showing me here that the distance from here is the same as the distance from here to here. They're doing that by these congruency dashes here. These two congruency dashes tell me that this line, this segment here, and this segment here is congruent. So what does that tell me? That tells me that these two chords are the exact same distance from the center of the circle. And if they are the exact same distance from the center of the circle, then I know that they are also going to be what? Congruent. So then I know that chord CA and chord BA are going to be congruent. So I can say that CA is congruent to BA. What else do I know? What else can I infer from this diagram? Well, I also know that CA is perpendicular with this line here. Which means then that if CA is perpendicular with this line here, well, then I know that this chord can be bisected. I know that this chord can be bisected. So and then I also know that chord AB is also perpendicular with this line here. And if it's perpendicular, well then I know that chord AB is also being bisected. And they didn't give any points here, so I could name this segment here is congruent to this segment there. They didn't put any letters there, but I can conclude that from the rules that we gave earlier. Let's take a look at question number 42. It says, find the measure of the red arc or chord in circle A and explain your reasoning. Again, it's in pink. I apologize. So they want to know what is the measure of this chord right here, and they want us to give them an explanation. Well, if you notice, this chord is this distance from the center. And this chord is also the exact same distance from the center. This chord is 10 units long. Well, the rule states that if two chords are the same distance from the center, then they're going to be congruent. Since they are the same distance from the center, and this chord is 10, well then I know that chord ED is also going to be 10. And your reason in a full sentence should explain that when chords are the same distance from the center, they are congruent. Question 43. They want to know what is the measure of this arc here. Well, here I have a diameter, and it's perpendicular to this chord. Well, by seeing that, I know that arc DC is also going to be 40 degrees. Your complete sentence should state that when a diameter is perpendicular to a chord, that diameter not only is bisecting the chord, it is also bisecting the arc. So that is what your full sentence explanation should say. Let's take a look at question number 44. 44, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have highlighted this here. They want to know what is the measure of this arc here. They want to know what the measure of this arc here. They tell you that this chord is, it's not being bisected, but they're showing you this right here. What they're trying to tell you is that chord BD is congruent to chord EC without giving you the distance from the center. I guess that's the hint they're trying to give you. And if you notice, this right here is not a semicircle because this is not a diameter. It's not a diameter. So they're trying to give you a clue here of this is 60 degrees, this is 110 degrees, which gives you 170 degrees. They're giving you 170 degrees. Well, if you notice, chord BD makes up this arc here. Chord BD makes up this arc here. Let me put that in blue. Chord BD makes this arc right here, which is 170 degrees. Well, you notice how this chord has 1 and 2 dashes. Notice, look at chord EC in pink. Look at chord EC in pink. It also has 1 and 2. Remember we said they're congruent as well? Well then, that means then that this arc here, since these chords are congruent, that means that this arc here is also going to be the same as this arc here. Which means that if this is 60 degrees and this is 110, well then this is going to be 60 and this is also going to be 110 degrees. So your full sentence explanation should state that congruent chords have congruent arcs. Congruent chords have congruent arcs. Let's take a look at question number 45. It says, find the value of x in circle C and explain your reasoning. Well, again, I have a chord here, which is 15 units long. I have a chord here of unknown length. I know that these two chords are the same distance from the center. So if this is 15 units, I know that x is also going to be, this chord here is also going to be 15 units. Okay? That should be your explanation. The fact that they're both the same distance from the center makes these chords the same size. Question number 46. Well, I know that this is 7. I know that this is a diameter, and I know that this is a chord, and I know that it's perpendicular. So then I know that x is going to be 7. And what's my explanation for that? Well, if a diameter is perpendicular to a chord, then the diameter is bisecting that chord as well as the arc. That should be your explanation. So since they are perpendicular, this diameter is cutting this chord into 2 congruent parts. So if this part is 7, this part is also 7.